It was a gray afternoon when she met him. The kind of day when the clouds hang low and the world feels half asleep. She was sitting by the cafe window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass when he walked in. There was nothing extraordinary about him at first glance. Yet something about the way he smiled when their eyes met made her forget the chill in the air. He was warm. Charming. The kind of man who made everyone around him feel lighter just by existing. When he spoke, his voice carried a quiet confidence. Not too loud, not too soft, just right. And when he laughed, she swore it sounded like the beginning of something beautiful. Their first conversation flowed like a melody. Simple. Effortless. They talked about books, about dreams, about how both of them loved the rain because it made the world seem softer. He told her he believed in soulmates. She smiled, not because she believed in them but because for a brief moment she wanted to. Days turned into weeks, and before she realized it, her life had begun to revolve around him. Morning messages, late-night calls, the way his hand fit perfectly around hers. It all felt like a story written just for them. He made her feel seen in a way no one ever had. He noticed the little things, how she stirred her tea 3 times before sipping, how she hummed when nervous, how she always looked at the stars before going to bed. She gave him her heart slowly at first, then all at once. Every wall she'd built around herself crumbled under the warmth of his affection. She believed his promises, the ones he whispered when the world was asleep. "I'll never leave you," he'd say, his voice brushing against her skin like a vow. "You're my forever." And she believed him. With every heartbeat, their love became her safe place. The reason she smiled without trying, the reason she began to dream again. She planned her future around him, never once imagining that he might not be there to see it. She cooked for him, wrote him letters she never gave, prayed for him when he was tired. Her friends said she was glowing. Maybe she was. Because when you love someone that deeply, your soul forgets to hide. But love, she would learn, can be the most fragile thing in the world. It began with small things, unanswered calls, late replies, the sudden distance in his eyes. He told her he was busy, that work was taking over. She believed him, of course. Love makes you trust even when your heart starts to ache. Then one evening she called him, just to hear his voice. He didn't pick up. She tried again and again until finally, a woman's laughter answered instead. Soft, familiar, intimate. It echoed through the speaker, slicing through her like a blade. For a moment she couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. She sat in silence, the phone still pressed to her ear, listening to the sound of her world collapsing. The rain was falling again outside, the same way it had when they met, but this time it didn't sound like music. Sounded like goodbye. Her tears came quietly without sobs or screams. Just the steady breaking of something pure. She had given him her heart, not carelessly but completely. And in return he had given it away as if it had never been his to keep. That night she didn't sleep. She just sat by the window watching the rain, whispering the same words over and over. Why wasn't I enough? And in the silence that followed she began to understand. It wasn't her heart that was too fragile. It was his hands that were too careless to hold it. The days that followed were a blur, an endless stretch of gray mornings and sleepless nights. The world kept moving but she stood still, trapped inside the echo of his laughter that no longer belonged to her. Every room in her house felt haunted, not by ghosts but by memories too alive to fade. She still half expected his name to light up her phone. Still reached for it when it buzzed, only to find emptiness staring back. Every heartbeat hurt, every breath felt heavier than the last. Love had once made her heart bloom, now it suffocated her. She cried quietly at first, hiding her pain behind closed doors. Then louder when pretending became too much. The nights were the hardest, where silence was loud enough to make her tremble. She would sit by the window, her eyes swollen, her soul empty, watching the stars she once wished upon. She had wished for him. And maybe that was her first mistake. When she saw him again, he wasn't alone. His arm rested around another woman. The same laughter, the same charm now painted on someone else's heart. He looked happy. Effortlessly happy. And that was when something inside her finally broke. Not in a loud, dramatic way but quietly, deeply, like glass shattering in slow motion. She wanted to scream. To ask why. To remind him of everything she had given. The love, the faith, the endless forgiveness. But she didn't. She stood there, frozen, a smile stitched painfully across her lips and walked away. Each step she took felt like leaving a piece of her soul behind. That night she stared at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked unfamiliar, pale, hollow eyes dulled by too many tears. "Who are you?" she whispered. But the reflection didn't answer. And then through that silence something changed. A flicker. Small but certain. She realized that she couldn't keep dying over someone who was still living freely after killing her spirit. She had given him everything, her love, her time, her heart, and he had turned it all into ashes. So she decided to stop waiting for an apology that would never come. The next morning she didn't cry. She didn't call. She didn't look for closure in his lies. Instead she cleaned her house, packed away every photograph, every note, every piece of him that lingered. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but under it, something new was growing. Faith. He had destroyed her heart, but he had unknowingly given birth to her fire. She looked out the window one last time, whispering softly, "You thought you ended me. But you only taught me how to begin again." And as the first light of dawn touched her face, she realized. The woman who once lived for him had died, but in her place, someone far stronger was finally being born. Time passed, but she didn't heal by forgetting. She healed by remembering. Every tear, every betrayal, every lie became a thread in the tapestry of her rebirth. The woman who once broke under love's cruelty was gone. In her place stood someone quieter, colder, wiser. Someone who no longer chased peace but created it on her own terms. He still walked through life as if untouchable. The perfect man with the perfect smile, hiding his rotting truth behind charm and confidence. People admired him, trusted him, even envied him. But she knew the man beneath the mask. The liar, the manipulator, the coward. And that knowledge was power. She didn't plan her revenge in anger. Anger fades. This was something deeper. A calm, deliberate decision to balance what had been broken. Her revenge would not be fire. It would be light. The kind that exposes everything hidden in the dark. He worked in a place where image was everything. A good reputation meant success. A single rumor meant ruin. And she knew exactly where to press to make him crumble. He didn't hack, threaten, or scream. He simply revealed the truth. Quietly. Precisely. The company found out about the money he had siphoned to fund his secret trips with the woman he cheated with. The board discovered his web of lies. The forged reports, the fake deals, the people he'd used to climb higher. One email from an anonymous source was all it took to set the chain in motion. When the storm hit, she watched from a distance. He called her once, desperate, terrified, his voice shaking in a way she had never heard before. "Please, you have to help me," he begged. "You're the only one who knows me." She smiled faintly. "I know you," she whispered, "and that's exactly why I won't." For a moment, silence filled the line, then the sound of his breath breaking into disbelief. It was the same silence she had lived through for months, now returned to him like a mirror. One by one his walls collapsed. The job was gone. The new woman left. Friends turned away. His charm, once his greatest weapon, became useless when stripped of truth. He had built his world on deceit and she had simply removed the foundation. But when it was done, she didn't feel the thrill of victory. She felt peace. Not because he had fallen, but because she had risen. Her revenge wasn't about destroying him. It was about reclaiming herself. That night, she stood beneath the same stars she used to cry under, the wind brushing against her hair. "You gave away my heart," she whispered softly to the sky, "and now I've given away your lies." And as the darkness settled, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: freedom. The chaos faded as quietly as it had begun. His downfall became just another story whispered among people who once praised him. But she no longer cared for the whispers. His name no longer carried weight in her world. Her war was over, and for the first time in years she felt light. There was no satisfaction in his suffering, no joy in watching him fall. Revenge had never been about vengeance. It was about reclaiming the parts of herself he had tried to destroy. She had faced her pain, stared into its darkness, and walked out carrying her own light. She left the city soon after, the place that had witnessed both her love and her ruin. Her apartment, once filled with laughter and memories, now stood empty. She packed her life into a few boxes, left the keys on the counter, and walked away without looking back. The morning air was cold but clean. She breathed it in deeply, letting it fill the spaces that had been hollow for so long. The train station was almost empty, the world still half asleep. She sat by the window watching the city blur into distance. Every passing mile felt like a layer of pain peeling off her skin. As the sun began to rise, soft and golden, she thought about the woman she used to be. The girl who believed love meant sacrifice, who mistook pain for passion, who thought being chosen was the same as being valued. That version of her had died the night he betrayed her. But from her ashes, a new woman had emerged, stronger, softer, wiser. She reached into her bag and found an old photograph of them. For a moment she stared at it, not with anger but with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "You taught me everything I never wanted to learn but needed to know." Then she tore it in half and let the pieces drift out the train window, carried away by the wind. He had once been her world, but now he was nothing more than a chapter in her story. A painful one, yes, but necessary. Because without him she would never have discovered the strength hiding beneath her scars. When the train slowed at her stop, she stepped onto the platform with a heart that no longer ached. She was alone but not lonely. Her solitude felt sacred, a space she had built with courage, forgiveness, and quiet grace. As she walked into the new city, sunlight spilling over her shoulders, she realized something beautiful. She didn't need revenge anymore. She didn't need love to validate her worth. She had herself, whole, healed, and unbreakable. She paused, turned her face toward the sky and smiled. "I gave you my heart once," she whispered to the wind. "But now, it belongs to me." And with that she took her first step toward the life she was always meant to live. Not as the woman who was broken but as the woman who rose.